Guys, today we're not going to debunk PMO. We're going to debunk what is the actual biggest struggle with people trying to debunk overall quitting porn and masturbation, which is simply masturbation, okay? MO, which means masturbation and orgasm, okay? These are the biggest two problems in the nofap space because we have so many limiting beliefs and we have so many things to debunk related to those things because we've been brainwashed ever since a young age and through the media and through our childhood that masturbation and orgasm is like the most important thing on earth, and we have all of these limiting beliefs which we're gonna tackle that makes us just want to masturbate, right? That literally makes us think masturbation is valuable, that having an orgasm is valuable. But once you debunk those, you're not even gonna feel like masturbating. You're not even gonna feel like having an orgasm. Obviously, like, it's still subjective in the sense that you can still choose to have it, especially if you're having sex. And I'm not here to force you to not masturbate. I'm not here to force you to masturbate. I'm just telling you, we're going to debunk it so that you see masturbation for what it is, which means that you have full control over it, and not for what you inflate it to be, and not for what people have told you to perceive to be, okay? So we got to ask yourself, okay, masturbation, one of the biggest things that people don't even realize about masturbation is that literally the biggest reason why you masturbate is for this here, okay? Let me write it in the recorder because this is not working. So it's for this here. Mental masturbation. What does that mean? Okay, mental masturbation means what happens inside of your head whilst you're doing the act, okay? It might be whilst you're watching porn, right? Which I tackle in the videos, but specifically, what happens when you literally masturbate? What happens inside of your head? Okay, because let's be honest. Let's just like be objectively, let's just look at masturbation for what it is. What is masturbation? Like, for what it is physically, physical sensations, right? It's like a tickling, stimulating kind of act that ends with an orgasm, right? Nothing special, right? It's just like you're literally, that's what happens physically, okay? Now the problem is, and that's the thing we're gonna tackle, which is gonna literally make you not even want to masturbate, is that what happens inside of the head, okay? Because when you masturbate, you're not like literally masturbating thinking about nothing and just feeling on top of the world, like having so much pleasure, just as if you were doing something else. No, what happens is you're having pleasure because pleasure is in your mind. Okay, so what happens? You're masturbating, and just look back at the last time you masturbated. What is happening actually inside of your head? You're probably thinking, and let me just write it down because it's gonna help you guys a lot to just visualize it. Okay, because this is what happens. Let's say that this is your mind. Okay, now when you masturbate, you think, oh, I'm masculine. Oh, I have testosterone. Oh, I'm a man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna explode. Okay, so I'm just gonna explain these things to you. They might not make sense at first, but you're gonna understand why. Okay, I'm a man full of testosterone, libido. I'm having sex. I'm gonna conquer. It feels so good. So essentially, okay, these are like the main things that are happening inside of your head, okay, whilst you're masturbating. You're literally thinking, oh my god, I'm so masculine because I'm having this strong urge to masturbate, or if I was masturbating, I would be having sex and I would be so like, full of testosterone, libido. That's literally how we think. Because we attribute masturbation, we attribute thinking lustfully to masculinity, to testosterone, to libido, to you conquering, to you feeling so good. We attribute those things. We put so much importance on sex that when we don't have sex, we think we instead masturbate. I mean, it doesn't happen to everyone, but to some people, we instead masturbate, and we take all of those things. We're like, and you see, like, you're literally thinking all of those things. Okay, you're like, oh my god, I'm the G, I'm the man, I'm masculine. Okay, and even though that's the thing, masturbation cannot do that for you. You think let me write it, okay? You think the physical side, okay, the physical sensations um imagine the physical sensations will be causing this. That's not what it is. You're not masturbating and getting and feeling masculine, and feeling a lot of testosterone, and feeling a lot of libido, and feeling like, I mean, you're gonna explode because that's in your mind, but it's like the orgasm exposure, that you're having sex, that you're conquering, that you feel so good. It's not the physical act. It's not masturbation itself. It's your mind, okay? Because just think about it. Imagine that. Let me write this. Imagine that you go get a massage, okay? Let me just write it. My pens are literally never working, okay? But yeah, never mind. I think I'm gonna give up, guys. Let's say that you're getting a massage, okay? And let's say it's at like a luxurious luxury place, okay? So like somewhere where it costs like $300 to have a massage, or let's say like $200, right? Now, if you pay for it and you go to the massage place and you get the massage, right? And you get the physical massage. Now, you might, one of the thing that you might think in your head, okay, is that you feel rich because of the massage, and how like there's different oils, and like how there's different kind of like massage, and it's more professional, and it overall looks better, like in terms of the environment of the place. Maybe the woman's more beautiful, all of those things, right? It's like luxurious, right? But is it the physical sensations of the massage that you're getting that makes you feel rich? Is it the oil that makes you feel rich? Is it the way that the massage is done that makes you feel rich? Those things cannot make you feel rich, only if you perceive them to make you feel rich. Only if you say to yourself, oh, look, I'm rich because of this, right? It's not like there's a chemical inside of the massage that's going to make you feel rich. Like there's no such emotion as feeling rich. It's just like you think you're rich. And there's the same exact thing here. The physical sensation you're getting from masturbation cannot give you masculinity, cannot give you testosterone, cannot give you libido, because that's all in your head. It's the same thing as if you were smoking a cigarette, and you would be like, you feel cool because you're smoking, just like in movies. You're like this, and you're like, oh man, I'm so cool. I'm like a skateboarder, whatever, how people feel when they smoke. Or let's say you smoke a cigar, right? And you're like, oh, I'm like Andrew Tate or something, right? And you feel like a mafia boss, whatever. Well, can the cigarette actually make you feel like a mafia boss? Can the cigarette actually make you feel cool? Is it on a chemical level that happens? No, obviously not. Obviously not. You're just linking feeling cool to smoking, even though they have no correlation. It's like, imagine that I masturbate and I think that masturbation makes me feminine. Like I can literally feel feminine if I think that masturbation is gonna make me feel feminine. Okay, you gotta understand that it's all in the mind. It's not because of how you used to react or how everyone reacts towards masturbation that it's true. That's the problem we have, is that we get told that, oh, you masturbate because you have so much testosterone and libido, and because you have so much you're masculine, you have your manhood, you want to have sex, and it's normal because you're gonna explode if you don't release. We have all of these limiting beliefs. Okay, that's the problem. Okay, and another thing is the one of the biggest problems is that we literally think, okay, that masturbation is like the greatest thing on earth. It's like the most like euphoric thing, euphoric. Okay, we think that, oh my god, man, it feels so good, it feels like the best thing on earth. But all of that, okay, like if you were to just look at it just think about it for 2 seconds. Do you really think you touching your genitals would create so much pleasure that it would feel like the greatest thing on earth? Then like why? Or like the older generation literally didn't used to masturbate as much. Women usually don't even masturbate, especially religious women. And why don't they do it if it's inherently the greatest thing? Because what you can understand is that we've been brainwashed. We've been brainwashed to be told over and over again, through videos, through media, to movies, that masturbation feels like the best thing on earth, right? And sadly, there's the scientific kind of space, which is kind of pseudoscience, because most of the time it's not actual science, but they tell you that, oh, masturbation gives a lot of pleasure, a lot of dopamine, it makes you relieve your stress. And we almost see it as something that, you know, it's like the best thing on earth, whilst hunter-gatherers, you really think they were masturbating, right? I don't want to use hunter-gatherers as an example, but you see my point, right? It's not necessary. Masturbation wasn't necessary because it serves no purpose, and the pleasure is in your mind. Pleasure overall is not physical. Pleasure is always in your mind. If I'm watching porn and I feel pleasure, it's because I perceive porn to give me pleasure. If I eat, let's say, just do the experiment, eat a certain food, right? Let's say you eat your favorite food and try to just be mindful whilst you eat. Don't even think, oh my god, this feels good. Just have no thoughts and just eat the food. You're going to realize that there's no such thing as like pleasure. You're just going to taste something, and it's your mind which creates the pleasure. Okay, you're going to taste it, you're going to be like, oh, okay, okay, this tastes salty. That's it, right? Or if you taste it and you start thinking about the food and you start associating pleasure with it, now you're gonna feel pleasure, right? And it's not to say to not feel pleasure with eating food. That's not my point. But if you're literally, let's say, eating ice cream, right? Okay, ice cream, taste it mindfully. You'll see it's just like it's sweet. It's sweet, like it's a sweet taste, right? It's gonna whatever fall into your mouth, whatever, right? Like there's the physical part, but then there's the mental part. The mental part is where you're like, oh, this tastes good. Oh, this feels good. Oh, this tastes disgusting. Oh, this tastes, you know, weird. Because, you know, think about it, right? If I give you food whilst you're like, let's say that you're unconscious. If I give you ice cream whilst you're unconscious, you're not gonna think that, oh my god, this feels like the best thing on earth, right? Or even in some cases, if you're, let's say you're conscious, let's say that you feel bad and you have a lot of negative emotions, and I give you ice cream, you might not even enjoy it. You might not even feel pleasure, even though it might be your favorite food, because at that moment you don't want to feel pleasure. You don't want to think about the pleasure. You want to think about something else, because remember, it's all in your mind. Okay, so we gotta debunk so many benefits. Okay, we gotta debunk so many benefits that we link to masturbation. Look, this is gonna be a masterclass. Okay, you're very lucky that I'm even recording this video, because, you know, my students, when I teach them that, they literally become free from porn, masturbation, lust, all of those things. Okay, so pleasure. Okay, the first one we're gonna tackle is pleasure. Now, pleasure is pretty straightforward. Okay, so just kind of give you a little masterclass of pleasure. Now, pleasure is not linked to dopamine. I don't know why people make the connection between dopamine and pleasure, because dopamine is literally the anticipation for a reward. Pleasure is in your mind. I mean, they're both in your mind in that sense, but what you gotta understand is that pleasure, you can see pleasure in anything. I can see, you know how people like mutilate themselves, like they mutilate their arms, they feel pleasure from doing that sometimes, right? Because they perceive it to give them pleasure. If I go and play basketball, and I love playing basketball, then I'm gonna enjoy it. If I give the chance or an opportunity to someone who doesn't like playing basketball, and I tell him, you know, come and play basketball, he's not gonna feel any pleasure, because in his mind he doesn't perceive it to be pleasurable. Basketball is not inherently pleasurable. It's just based on your perception around basketball that's gonna make it pleasurable. Okay, that's what you gotta understand. It's very simple. Now, you know, for example, I'm making these videos. For me, it's pleasurable, but for someone else, it might be the most boring thing on earth. It's not because of dopamine. It's not because of, they don't have the attention span. I have a bad attention span, you can say so, right? But I feel pleasure because I perceive it to give me benefits. I perceive it to be something that's actually enjoyable for me to do, right? So that's what you need to understand. Pleasure is in your mind, and you choose to see pleasure in whatever you want. You can literally see pleasure in meditating. You can see pleasure in running. You can see pleasure in working out. People literally go to the gym, and the pain they feel in the gym, for them, is pleasurable. It feels good to them because they perceive it to be something that's either gonna give them something, like, you know, they're gonna feel better, or they're gonna have more muscles, whatever, but also they actually genuinely enjoy going to the gym, so they feel pleasure. While someone else, if you take them and let's say they never went to the gym, or they went a few times, they won't even enjoy the gym. They won't even enjoy, even if they're doing the same exercise, because their perception of the gym is that it's just going to be painful, it's going to be hard, it's going to be a struggle, whatever, right? That's what's happening inside of the mind. But once you replace that and you think, oh my God, the gym actually feels pleasurable, and you're convinced of it, boom, you feel pleasure, okay? So pleasure is really in the mind. It's really simple, right? And you can remove pleasure from anything. I remove pleasure from porn. I remove pleasure from many things in my life that I used to do that now I don't feel pleasure, because as humans, we move on. We move on from things. When I used to play with toys as a kid, I moved on. When I used to watch Spider-Man and all of these movies, I moved on and then did something else. I used to play hockey for multiple years. I moved on and went to play badminton, and then I moved on from badminton and I went to do MMA. I just moved on because even though I feel pleasure from doing these activities, I chose to not see pleasure in them anymore and instead pursue something else. Okay? That's what you gotta say. But when you're masturbating, there's no pleasure. It's all in the mind. It's all like, oh my god, I feel good. Because if you were to, masturbate mindfully, if you were to watch porn mindfully, you'll realize it's just like, okay, masturbation is a physical sensation. It's like you're just stimulating your genitals, and porn is literally you watching something, right? How could there be pleasure from watching something? It's got to be in your mind, okay? It's all in the mind. When you masturbate, it's in the mind. There's nothing physical, okay? Because just think about it. If, let's say, a random man, I don't like saying this example, but I gotta say it, okay? If let's say there's a random man that starts masturbating you and you don't want to, are you really gonna feel pleasure? Are you really gonna feel dopamine and all of those things? You're really gonna be like, oh my god, this feels so good. No, because you don't perceive it in your mind to be pleasurable. That's what you gotta understand. That's why the first time people masturbate for the first time in their lives, for me, for example, because I wasn't really told about it the first time I did it, I didn't feel pleasurable. It just felt weird. It just felt like a weird tingling sensation because my perception of masturbation wasn't formed yet. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna feel so much pleasure. In my mind, I was just like, I'm gonna experience with this. I don't know what it's gonna give me. So I didn't have any expectations. So guess what? Nothing happened. It was just a physical sensation. But once I started learning, like, oh, masturbation feels so good. It's gonna give me this. It's gonna be relaxation, stress relief. It's gonna give me pleasure. Now I'm like, oh yeah, this feels so good. Oh my god! And I'm starting playing this scenario in my head whilst I'm masturbating. That's what you need to understand, okay? It's all in the head. It's really all in the head, right? Again, if someone random does it to you, right? Let's say, okay, let's say the worst of the examples. Let's say a woman is doing it to you, right? And you're like, oh, this feels so good, and you feel like on top of the world, right? And then, because obviously it's in your own mind, you're like, oh, this feels good. You say it in your mind. It's literally you say it in your mind, oh, this feels good, right? But then imagine you realize that the woman is actually a ladyboy. Like, it's literally a man. And he was just dressed as a woman. Would you really just be like, oh my god, this feels so good, I'm just gonna continue? Oh my god, man, I'm pulled into the pleasure of masturbation. Oh man, I feel so much pleasure, I don't care if it's a man. No, you're not gonna have that reaction. You gotta have the opposite reaction. You're gonna be like, what the heck is this, man? What the heck, man? I'm cutting this off. No. This is not pleasurable. I didn't feel any pleasure from the beginning. You're literally gonna stop the pleasure like this because in your mind, the pleasure is happening in your mind. And once you decide in your own mind that you don't want to feel pleasure, you won't feel pleasure. It's all in the mind, guys. Okay, pleasure. Second thing, tension relief. Okay. The crazy thing about tension, okay, is that tension is literally in your mind again, okay? Yes, you might, people say blue balls, right? And literally there's no such thing as blue balls in like scientific terms, first of all. But second, okay, tension. Like, where do you feel the tension? Okay, you feel it in your balls? You need to understand that even if, let's say that you have a ton of tension. I used to be like this, right? Where I think about sex 24/7 after quitting porn and masturbation for the first time, right? I think sex about 24/7. I'd always feel what people call tension. But now guess what? It disappears like this the moment I stop thinking about porn, masturbation, or sex. The moment I stop thinking about sex, it just disappears. And I'm not saying like I stopped thinking about sex for the long term, because at that time I didn't really care, right? But in the short term, the moment I stop thinking about the tension, it just disappears, which shows that it's not the actual physical tension. Because if it was physical tension, just like you were getting tension from, let's say that you hurted yourself in the gym, you had an injury, now you're gonna feel it physically and it's gonna stay there. It's not gonna disappear for a few hours and then come back, and then it's not gonna be there for a few days and then it's gonna come back for a few days. No, it's gonna be there, right? But for tension, for the tension that you get from thinking about sex, it's literally disappearing the moment that you stop thinking about it, which shows that it's in your mind. There's nothing that's controlling you. There's nothing that's gonna pull you or make you want to masturbate or watch porn. It's just you. It's just you creating the concept of tension in your own mind to justify why you would masturbate because of the benefits you see in it, right? There's not. It's really that simple. Because if you literally didn't want to masturbate, first of all, there will be no such thing as tension, because you wouldn't even literally want to masturbate, first of all. But second, even then, let's say that tension was something that was forced upon you because you're a man full of testosterone, just like they would say. Like, man, you wouldn't, like, you literally, if you thought that, oh, I don't want to masturbate, and you get tension, you're not gonna go and masturbate. Like, man, there's people, what you gotta understand is that the mind is so powerful. Even if, let's say that the tension was in your biochemistry, right? It was inside of your body and it's like a physical pull. Then, even literally if it was physical, you could control it. Because the mind is way more powerful than the brain chemistry. Your mind controls your brain tissue. Your mind controls your brain. Your mind controls your body. You think that and I had this argument last time on Discord with someone, and I was going back and forth. He was saying, "Oh, the brain controls everything," but I was saying, "Okay, so your brain is learning. Does the brain learn words? Does the brain learn sentences, or is it your mind?" You gotta understand that you have a consciousness, and once you guys realize you actually have a consciousness, and you've been using it from day one, you realize that, okay, that tension is literally in your consciousness. Imagine that this is your consciousness. Like, it doesn't exist, right? It's not tangible. I mean, it exists, but like, it's not tangible physically, right? If the tension is happening in something that is not tangible, that is not like a disease inside of your body that you can get rid of, if tension is just in your mind, then that means you can get rid of tension the moment you stop thinking about the tension. This is crazy, but this is the truth, okay? That's what you need to understand. And it's the same thing with sexual relief, okay? Sexual relief, it's basically the same thing as sexual tension. I mean, as tension overall, right? Because sexual relief simply means that, okay, because first of all, we gotta understand that there's many people on this earth, just like priests, for example, just like asexuals, that don't even pursue porn, masturbation, lust, sex, all of those things, okay? Please don't have sex, they don't masturbate, obviously, and all of those things. Now, what you gotta understand is that the sexual relief, okay, again, happens in your mind, because you need to think about wanting to have sex before, okay? And even, okay, because a lot of people will argue, okay, but Samir, like, there's obviously a natural biological urge, okay? So let's say there's a natural biological urge, which is very hard to determine, right? Let's say it's like in your biology. Now, even if that was the case, okay, can you just be self-aware for 2 seconds and realize that that biological quote-unquote urge doesn't happen when you're busy, doesn't happen when you're focused on a project, doesn't happen when you're like in the middle of let's say like some physical activity. Whilst if you look at something very biological that's literally in your biochemistry, like hunger for food, that happens regardless of if you're busy, regardless of what happens to you, regardless of how you feel, regardless of if you're doing a physical activity or not, it's gonna happen. But with sexual relief, it's just in your mind, because what you gotta understand is that hunger is needed for survival. We all know that hunger is actually needed for you to survive, but sexual needs and whatever, like reproduction, is a choice. Many people choose to not reproduce. Many people choose to not have sex. Many people choose to not masturbate. Many people choose to not watch porn, because it is not a survival need. It is simply a desire. It's simply a desire, okay? And I'm not saying to remove that desire by any means, right? This is not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that you have control over it, and we have a developed consciousness. We're not like animals. We're just going to reproduce because we gotta repopulate, right? I mean, we gotta have offsprings. We can still choose. That's the thing. Many people choose to not be in relationships and just stay. I see many women nowadays that literally don't want kids. But literally, we would argue that the bio kind of like chemistry will say that, oh no, but like if you're a woman, you're a man, you would want to have kids naturally. But some people don't, because they perceive kids to be something that's not worth it. You understand? The moment you perceive, for example, I perceive not masturbating as something so beneficial because I feel more hungry, I feel more driven, I feel better, I feel more masculine, I feel all of those benefits. And because of that, and also because of the fact that I debunked all of the benefits related to masturbation, I just don't feel like masturbating, right? Even if it was rooted in my biology to masturbate and it would be forced upon me, which is false, right? But even if it was, I wouldn't do it because I don't want to do it. It's not a survival need, it's simply a desire. Just like you might desire to go and play sports. It's not like playing sports is a survival need, it's just a desire. That's what you need to understand, okay? We put so many limiting beliefs and so much false information towards sex and masturbation and all of those things, right? And that only happened in this century, because the century before that, people were not like, oh, you know, you need to masturbate, all of those things. People were actually frowning upon masturbation, which just makes sense, right? So here we have pain relief, okay? So what is pain relief? I mean, we understand what pain relief is, right? We take that masturbation because a lot of people choose to masturbate the moment they feel negative. They never masturbate when they feel good because something good happened to them, because they just overall feel a rush of positivity inside of them and they feel happy. They never want to masturbate in those instances, which shows again that it's not based on biology, it's just based on the benefits you're trying to get. And one of those benefits can be the emotional pain relief, right? So how does masturbation relieve any of that? It doesn't. It's because the emotional pain relief is happening inside of your mind. Now, the moment you tell yourself, you know what, I'm gonna stop thinking about this painful situation, and I'm gonna do something else, and that can be masturbation, and that can be reading a book, and that can be doing nothing, and that can be just switching your focus away from this painful situation to something else, is literally the moment you're gonna relieve your pain. Your emotional pain, because we're not talking about physical pain here. We all know masturbation is not gonna literally heal your body from an injury, right? We're talking about emotional pain, right? That a lot of people face nowadays. Let's say depression, for example. It's all in the mind, right? Because even if you look at studies for depression, when they do placebos on people that are deemed as anxious or depressed, they see that the results of placebos and the actual antidepressant is literally very, very similar, to the point where it's almost the same. So that shows that if they can relieve their depression and anxiety just by taking a fake pill, meaning that they literally relieve those things, they heal depression and anxiety just with their own mind, because literally the pills contains nothing, then that means that it's in the mind. So the moment you stop thinking about the depression, the moment you stop thinking about the anxiety, is the moment that the anxiety and the depression is going to be relieved. It's really that simple. The moment you stop thinking about this frustrating situation in front of you is the moment you're going to relieve it. Because just think about it, right? Imagine a kid is feeling, let's not take a kid as an example because I'm going to confuse you, but let's say I'm feeling very bad, right? Like, for example, in the past few days, I was feeling bad because something happened to me, you know, but obviously, right, I just like got out of it like very quickly. But because when that thing happened that was bad, usually my normal natural response would be to go on Instagram and scroll, right? Just scroll. But what you gotta understand, okay, is that like literally scrolling on Instagram cannot give me an emotional pain relief. We all know that. We all know that the videos cannot do that. What instead happens is that I'm focused on something else. I'm focused on watching the videos, so I'm not thinking about the painful situation. So like, you understand, problems are in your mind, right? Obviously there's physical problems, there's just like an injury or disease, whatever, but most of the problems that we face are in the mind, right? If we, for example, stress over the fact that we might not, let's say that we might get rejected, right? It's in the mind, it's not physical. It's not like, oh my God, I got rejected, I'm literally getting killed, I'm getting hurt, whatever. No, it's all in the mind. So what you gotta understand is, you relieve the pain yourself with your own mind the moment you decide that you want to relieve that pain. It's that simple. The moment you say, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna stop thinking about this stressful situation, I'm gonna stop thinking about this painful situation, and instead I'm just gonna basically stop thinking about it, or I might do something else. Some people choose to masturbate, but the reason they choose to masturbate is not because it's gonna give them an emotional pain relief. It's just that they want to distract themselves. It's not like masturbation has a special chemical, and that Orgas has a special chemical that makes you feel so relaxed that you don't even feel pain anymore. None of that happens. That happens in your mind. You can literally relax yourself with your own mind. You can literally say, you know what, I'm gonna stop thinking about this stressful situation. I'm gonna stop thinking about this painful situation. Instead, I'm just gonna relax myself. I'm gonna meditate. I'm gonna stop thinking. Boom. Problem is removed because you remove the focus on that problem in your own mind, because it's all happening in your mind, okay? That's what you need to understand. Okay. Now another thing, boredom relief. Boredom relief. This is an interesting one, okay? Because boredom is not even a real thing. Guys, boredom is not a real thing. Like, you can take a kid from, like, let's say a third world country who's used to, who is literally like, was born where maybe he spends like 4 hours a day doing nothing. And for me, it's not gonna be like, oh, I'm bored. Oh, I'm bored. Oh, I feel bad because I'm bored. Oh, I feel bad because I'm lonely. No, none of that. Because boredom is a concept that we learned. And sadly, we attach negative, it's one thing to invent a concept, right? But it's another thing to make that concept negative and make people think that it's a bad thing. It's not because you're doing nothing, okay? Because boredom is just like you're doing nothing, right? You're not doing anything physically. You maybe just thinking, right? Like, that's what happens physically, right? But we attach so many like pejorative, so many negative connotations to boredom, where we think like, oh my god, boredom is bad because it means that I'm gonna be tempted, I'm gonna be a waste, it's gonna be a waste of time, it means I have no friend. And we attach all of these negative beliefs and all of these false beliefs to boredom, and because of that we try to get rid of boredom. But what you gotta understand is that boredom is just a frame of mind. There's no such thing as boredom. The only way to relieve boredom, first of all, if you don't believe that boredom exists, then there's no such thing as relieving boredom. But also, if you believe that boredom exists, then it's like, yeah, the moment that you're doing something, then you're not gonna feel bored. Like, it's that simple. So if I'm looking, so let's say that I'm doing nothing, and I decide to look at this whiteboard right here, right? Now I'm not feeling bored because I'm looking at something. Like, masturbation, it's a physical sensation. Okay, you're getting physical sensation. That's it. It's not relieving boredom. It's not relieving anything. It's not relieving loneliness. It doesn't mean that you're gonna have friends now because you masturbated. It doesn't mean that you're gonna have intimacy because you masturbated. Rather, we just attach so many benefits to masturbation, where when we're bored, we're like, you know what, let me do something that real quickly is gonna give me some benefits, give me some value. You're like, oh, masturbating. But like, you're not masturbating because of the physical effect of masturbation that's gonna give you nothing. Basically, you're masturbating because you know that once you start masturbating, you're gonna start thinking about, oh my god, I feel like a man. And you're gonna give this placebo effect of like, oh, I feel so much pleasure, I feel stress relief, I feel better, I feel excitement, I feel like a masculine, full of testosterone man, all of those things, right? That's what happens. So boredom is not even something that should, I have a video debunking boredom. Boredom is just a false concept that doesn't even exist. It's just that we need to learn to understand that, even though, another thing that I said in the video was like, bro, feel good being bored. Like, feel good just like doing nothing. Like, you can literally, personally, I attach benefits to that, because whenever I'm quote unquote bored, whenever I have nothing to do, I literally start thinking about like projects, I start thinking about ideas, and it turns out to always be beneficial to me. And I enjoy the time because I get to know more about myself, and I just overall love just thinking, right? Because you're when you're doing nothing, you're allowed to just like think freely, and I love that. I love that because there's so much benefits, man. You can like literally come up with ideas. You can get to know more about like your weaknesses, your strengths, and man, it's just powerful, right? So don't worry about boredom, right? Obviously, masturbation has nothing to do with boredom, okay? Now, sleep, okay? And this is a big one, okay? Because what we gotta understand is that masturbation, okay, or more so the orgasm. Now, there's two sides of this. First, because you cannot sleep, right? What happens when you cannot sleep? It's not that you literally physically cannot sleep. It's that you start thinking too much. And one of the things that you think about once you cannot quote unquote sleep is, I cannot sleep. You literally say to yourself over and over again, I cannot sleep, I cannot sleep, I cannot sleep. So the moment you allow yourself to stop thinking is the moment that you're going to be able to sleep. And that's the thing, because people literally watch porn, they masturbate, okay? And they go on their phone where there's so much blue lights, which will literally kill their quality of the sleep, and will supposedly make them awake longer, because they're literally seeing blue light, which will be seen in the daylight, right? Which will trigger a natural response to just be awake, first of all. Second, they masturbate, and then they have this orgasm. And the moment that they're masturbating, you have this orgasm, What they think inside of their own head, it's like, okay, now I'm gonna be able to sleep. 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 Let me do it so I can sleep. Let me do it so I can sleep. Let me do it so I can sleep. They're taking this so it can allow them to just, when they get the final physical sensation of the orgasm, and they're like, now I can relax, right? They're like, now I can. And another thing is, it might be like they actually want to masturbate in the first place, right? Most of the time, that's it. It's just like you want to masturbate because of the benefits that you perceive in masturbation, and so you want to masturbate. So you think about it, and now you're like, you know what? Let me use the fact that I'm not sleeping right now because I'm thinking too much about wanting to masturbate, thinking too much about wanting to have sex, and let me, literally masturbate so I can relieve those thoughts and then go to sleep. Okay, so there's no, like, masturbation is not doing any of that. It's just you deciding to believe that. Because, bro, think about it, right? If you're literally there in your own bed and you're not thinking about anything, right? You're literally not thinking about anything, you would just fall asleep, right? You literally would fall asleep. But you think that you need masturbation, so what happens is you have this mental scenario that's happening inside of your head that actually creates the disruption of you even falling asleep in the first place. So your thoughts about wanting to masturbate, your thoughts about the fact that you think that you cannot sleep, is what creates the problem of sleeping. And also, you relieve it not by masturbating, not by having the orgasm, but by mentally telling yourself, now I can sleep, now I can relax. Because, bro, even if you have an orgasm, okay? Some people have an orgasm and feel on top of the world. Some people have an orgasm and feel happy. Some people have an orgasm and feel energized. Some people have an orgasm and feel like shit. Some people will have an orgasm and feel relaxed. Some people have an orgasm and feel nothing. What you gotta understand is that it's subjective. The orgasm is not gonna make you feel one way or the other. It's gonna make you feel based on what you think it's gonna make you feel, based on how you interpret that orgasm. So once you understand that, okay, masturbation and orgasm cannot make me feel relaxed so I can sleep. It's me doing that to my own self, right? Because, and that even happens with alcohol, right? People drink alcohol in a pub, in a bar, and they feel happy, they feel on top of the world, they feel, confident, all of those things, right? And then they drink the same alcohol in, let's say, a funeral. Now they feel sad, now they feel bad, and all of those things. Or they drink the alcohol at a family reunion. Now they just feel chill, they just feel relaxed. The same alcohol. Why is there 3 different reactions for the same alcohol? Because of how they perceive the environment, or how they interpret the alcohol to be taken in that moment being. That's why some people, when you were a kid, you masturbated and you didn't feel like, oh my god, I'm doing it to fall asleep. Or to relax. You were like, I'm doing it for the pleasure. Oh, I'm doing it because I want to do it, whatever, right? You were not like, oh my god, this orgasm makes me fall asleep. Because think about it, some people masturbate in the morning and they don't just fall asleep right after they masturbate. No, because they perceive the morning to be a time where they don't want to feel asleep, so they don't even feel like falling asleep. But because you perceive the night, so you gotta understand, it's all in the mind. It's really all in the mind. You're literally making your own self sleep. It's not masturbating, okay? Another thing, okay, is sexual health, and that's probably one of the biggest ones. Because we get told, and there's actually a study that has been able to debunk this, okay, that, there's the problem with, like, prostate cancer. That's a huge one. And I say, like, that's a huge one of, like, that's like, oh, you're gonna get prostate cancer if you don't masturbate, or you're gonna get prostate cancer if you masturbate. None of that. There's a study done, I think, in 2016 or 2015. I can link it up. I give this study to my students that enroll in my one-on-one coaching. And that study shows that, the moment, they basically show that there's no correlation between prostate cancer and masturbation. There's literally no connection between those two things. They said that what would actually improve your prostate health so you don't get prostate cancer is just regular exercise and your overall diet, right? So what can we learn from this? There's no correlation, okay? But we believe We have so many limiting beliefs. We literally think that if you don't masturbate for like 1 year or a few months, that you're gonna be losing your genitals off, and that it's gonna be not you're not gonna be hard anymore, and all of those things. But trust me, bro, I literally stopped masturbating. I remember when I was like 17 to 18, I stopped masturbating and watching porn for 1 full year, right? And then I fall back to again. I mean, fall back again. I decided to watch porn or masturbate again, and yet I still had like perfect health. I still had like perfect like arousal. I still had perfect, because even though arousal happens inside of the mind, what you gotta understand is it's mental. Erectile dysfunction is mental. There's so many things that are mental, but we perceive them to be physical. Now, because we know that there's the study, I don't know if I wrote it here, but the study literally shows that there's no connection. Okay, no connection at all. So if you understand that there's no connection, you understand that you're good. Don't worry about it. Like, man, that was literally the main reason why. Man, for me, that was literally the main reason why I was just literally wanting to masturbate, because I thought like, oh my god, I'm gonna lose my genitals off, and I'm gonna get prostate cancer maybe in the future, and my balls would just get so full that they just will explode, whatever. And all of these limiting beliefs that were created by what? By simply me consuming information from pseudoscience and from NoFap forums and from YouTube videos and just from like porn sites, whatever, right? That just are limiting beliefs on top of limiting beliefs of quote unquote experts that tell you that, oh, you need to masturbate because it's gonna help you deal with life, which makes no sense. Like, just use logic for a second. You really think that masturbation is the only way to relax? Because first of all, it can like relax you, because it's literally the relaxation happens in your mind. But even if we take that same mindset, man, we can relax with anything. You can relax by meditating. Why are they not saying to meditate instead of having sex with your own head? Like, it's really just logic, right? So that's what was happening, okay? And the biggest benefit, right? And I've been making videos about this recently, because this is very important to understand, is masculinity, okay? Masculinity, by that I don't mean like, oh, you're a man. No, I mean that you literally feel like you're a man whilst masturbating in your own head, because you link masturbation, having an orgasm, sex, and all of those things to masculinity, right? And I don't blame you, right? And it's like libido, testosterone, it's all of those things, right? I don't really blame you, because ever since we've been growing up in this highly sexualized society, and in this highly like degenerate society, where literally the mainstream, I mean not the mainstream, the main source of music that people listen to literally is over sexualized to the point where it inflates the value of sex. We look at movies, sex is literally like the thing that is always inflated to be like, oh, this is the best thing on earth, right? And all of those things, masculinity, libido, testosterone. What happens is, whilst you masturbate, right? I realized that I used to do this in the past, where I would be like, oh, I'm masturbating, oh my god, man, and I would be looking myself in the mirror and be like, oh my god, man, I'm the man, I'm about to explode, I'm full of testosterone and libido, I'm gonna be able to release all of that. I'm gonna do this in the meantime, and when I have sex, I'm gonna do the same exact thing, and then I'll start taking out that I'm having sex with a woman, even though I'm just masturbating, and I start having all of these things that I'm saying to my own head, right? It's the equivalent of me. Let's say that I walk around, like, let's say shirtless, right? So I walk around shirtless and I have a lot of muscles, and I'm in public, I just walk around shirtless, right? If I tell myself, oh my god, man, I look like a big guy, man, I'm buffed, and I'm the most sexy guy on earth, then that's in my head, right? Maybe girls and other men will have the opposite reaction. Maybe they'll think, oh, this guy's weird, he doesn't even look good, he doesn't have muscle. But because I think that, oh, I look so good because I'm walking around shirtless, I have so much confidence. Now, in my own head, that's what's happening, right? But the reality is not what might be happening, right? Same thing here. You're literally thinking about those things, and you link them to masturbation, because you've been told over and over the years that, oh, if you masturbate, it's because you have masculinity, and masturbation is a substitute for sex. And look, all of your idols, all of the rappers, all of the all of the actors, all of the celebrities, they have sex, and they live a life where they have a lot of women, and they constantly have sex every day, and they're basically like kings, and you know, you want to be like them, so you think, oh, you know what, let me be like them, because they have a lot of testosterone, they have a high libido, they have a lot of masculinity, let me be like them. Okay, they have sex, they have a lot of sex, okay, maybe I cannot have sex right now, so I'm gonna masturbate. You think that, right? You literally think that. There's no connection between masturbation and sex. There's no connection between masturbation, masculinity, libido, and testosterone. There's no connection between those things. Because first of all, libido, like how can you prove that you have a high libido because of masturbation? There's many people that have way higher testosterone than you, have a way higher libido than you, and don't masturbate, and don't watch porn, they don't even have sex sometimes, right? Just like at homosexuals, right? Gay people, these guys literally you would say that they don't have testosterone, you would say that they don't have a libido because they're gay, right? And they're feminine, and you will say that they have no masculinity, but yet sometimes, you know, they're the ones that masturbate the most, they're the ones that engage in sexual behaviors the most, because there's no connection between masturbation and all of those things. You're making the mental connection, and then whilst you masturbate, you think it's not like, oh, you masturbate and boom, masculinity comes from the sky and falls into you, or boom, you masturbate and now libido is running through your body because there's some special chemical that's getting released, or it's not boom, testosterone is now going up the sky because of you masturbating. Again, I'll ask you again the question that which I hate asking. If it was a man masturbating you, would you feel masculine? Would you feel a rise in libido? Would you feel a rise in testosterone? No, but it's the same physical act, because it's all in the mind. You could masturbate and feel less testosterone. You could masturbate and feel more testosterone. You could masturbate and feel feminine. You could masturbate and feel masculine. It doesn't matter, because masturbation cannot give you either masculinity or femininity. It cannot give you testosterone or no testosterone. It cannot give you libido or no libido. It cannot give you all of those things. All masturbation can genuinely, objectively, physically give you is physical sensations and an orgasm. That's it. But once you start attributing so many things to masturbation and orgasm, like, oh, orgasm is like the best thing on earth, and you start rationalizing that, oh, because, you know, you're reproducing, and that because you're feeling pleasure, and because there's dopamine, you attach so many false concepts to those things, and now you feel like masturbating. And now you don't see just masturbating and orgasm as a physical act. You just see it as something big and way bigger than what it actually is. Okay, that's what we gotta be careful of. Okay. And, you know, what we gotta understand is we gotta debunk biology, okay? Because there's one thing, and you can search this on the internet, it's pretty popular. There's a tribe, right, called Aka, and there's the Ngandu, okay? So I never know how to say the name, but Ngandu, okay? And you can you can just type these names on the internet, and you'll see where they did research. And guess what, okay? This tribe that lived in Africa literally didn't have okay, this is not working. This tribe literally didn't know about masturbation. They literally didn't have a concept for masturbation in their tribe. There's these two tribes. They didn't have the concept of masturbation. Does that mean that their kids was having sex straight out of puberty? No. Maybe some of them, but it doesn't mean that, like, we can understand there's no such thing as, oh, because you don't have sex, you're gonna masturbate. I know many people that started masturbating 4 years after their puberty, that started like at 18, especially for older generations. They didn't start at like 8 most of the time, they started at like 18, 20. They started after puberty, way after. You think in the meantime they were having sex every day? No, they didn't want to masturbate, they didn't want to watch porn. They didn't perceive it to be something that they needed to do. So you gotta understand, tribes, they're not influenced by society. They're not influenced by a civilized society that tells them that masturbation is so good. They don't attach false benefits and false perceptions around masturbation, and they don't inflate the value of masturbation. So they don't even want to indulge in masturbation, because they think, what's the point? They don't even know that they need to indulge in masturbation, which shows that it's not biological. Because if it was biological, they would be masturbating. But you'll tell me, oh, but Samir, look, like there's many there's ancient tribes that used to masturbate and whatever, there's ancient cultures. Cool, yeah. I'm not saying that's impossible to masturbate, but I'm saying that it is learned. It is not something that's forced upon you. It is something that people learn to do and start attaching value to. Right? We have free will. You can literally masturbate 10 times in a row if you want and say it's normal. You can never masturbate for the rest of your life and say it's normal. It's really just your choice, right? That's what you need to understand. It's not forced upon you. It's a choice, okay? We got to really debunk the biology side of things, okay? Because priests, asexuals, they don't even indulge in sex, right? And, you know, reproduction, like I said, is a desire. Reproduction is a desire. It's not a survival need. It's not something that's like you need in order to survive or else you die, right? That's what some people say for some reasons, but look, bro, just be honest. Like, okay, you know many people that never had kids, for example, right? You know many people that literally never got a partner, especially in other cultures, not civilized cultures, but like third world countries, right? It's a desire. I mean, I already wrote it. It's not survival, right? It's not survival. And once you can understand that, you understand that, okay, look, I'm not forced to do it. It's just a choice. It's like a desire. Like, what is a desire? It's something that you attach value to. Okay, I desire to eat meat because I perceive eating meat as something that's going to give me muscle, going to give me testosterone, that's going to make me bigger for the gym. I'm going to be able to lift more. I'm going to be able to look better. I'm going to be able to be more healthy. I have all of these benefits attached to it. So it's a desire. Like, I desire to eat it. While someone else might be vegan and see no desire because they don't perceive the same benefits as I perceive in meat, and they perceive more benefits in eating vegan than I do. So it's that simple, okay? So, you know, we have a sexual drive, okay? So let me just explain. We need to make the important distinction here, because we have a sexual drive, okay? And what the sexual drive is essentially like an hardware. But what I mean by hardware, okay, is that like inside of your body, you're able to like feel things. You're able to create certain feelings, okay? Let's say, for example, fear, okay? I don't remember who said this, but like, let's say that you feel fear, okay? You don't feel fear at random moments. You don't feel, I'm not gonna feel fear right now if I don't perceive anything to be scary, if that makes sense, right? If I don't feel like, okay, this is scary, what is in front of me? I don't feel that at random times. So what I have is I have an hardware meaning like I have like the capacity to feel fear, okay? And I decide to activate that capacity, that hardware, when I feel like I should, when I reason that I should. So when we have your sexual drive, it's not something that boom just pops out of nowhere and now you're like doomed to be fantasizing, and now because you're fantasizing you need to masturbate, and because you're masturbating you need to have an orgasm. No, it's none of that, okay? It makes no sense. Instead, you have the sexual drive, meaning that you can feel sexual, you can activate it, but you choose to if you reason that you should. So for example, if you see a beautiful woman in front of you, your reaction might be, oh, she looks so beautiful, let me go and ask her out, let me go and have sex with her, whatever, right? That might be your thought process that you decide. It's not like you force upon you, that you reason that you should think how, like you reason how you should act and how you should feel. So you're gonna activate your sexual drive. Now there might be the same beautiful woman, right? But in another day, and you have a different mindset now, and you're like, you see her and you're like, okay, she looks nice. Let's say that she's just like very, very like provocative, right? Let's say she's like in a bikini or something. Now you're gonna see her, right? But it's not the body part. It's not gonna be like because you see her ass and you see her boobies, whatever. It's not because you see those things that now, boom, the sexual drive is activated and now you cannot do anything about it, and she's gonna force you to have sex with her, right? Because of her body. No. Instead, you have the sexual drive, and you look at her, okay, and you're like, okay. You either choose, oh, let me indulge in this and let me, go and talk to her, let me have sex, whatever. Or you might choose, oh, I don't care much, there's not much benefits. Or you might choose, oh, let me talk to her, but I don't want to pursue anything because I'm religious and it doesn't fit my value. Or, I don't even put that much importance on our looks. I want to know more about the personality. So you're not, you're not going to activate your sexual drive. You choose to. You might think, oh, this is not the time being for me to activate my sexual drive, so I won't activate it because maybe there's other people around, or maybe because you have something to do in like 10 minutes and you want to focus on that thing, you don't want to focus on it. You see, you reason why you shouldn't activate it, or you reason why you should activate it. There's nothing forcing you, it's you literally creating it, okay? So that means you always have control over it. The sexual drive is an hardware. The hardware is never activated out of, it's like, imagine you have a computer. It's not gonna get turned on out of nowhere. No, you choose to press the button to turn it on so that it can drive. So it can run. Okay? Make the distinction. You have a sexual drive. You don't feel forced. Okay? So, look, and it's the same, bro. We have the same thing with, like, for example, love. Like, we have the hardware to feel the emotion of love, to just love someone. But that doesn't mean we're gonna feel love at random times whilst we're doing something else, for example, or whilst we're taking a walk. No, we just decide to feel love because it's all in the mind. People gotta understand. It's not biochemistry. It's the mind. Okay. So, look. Okay. If you just look back at the first time you masturbated, okay, and I want you to do this so that you can really debunk masturbation even further. The first time, okay, the first time that you masturbated, you didn't do it because, oh, it was biology. Because, like I said, there's many people that starts after puberty. There's people that starts way before puberty, that starts like at 5 years old, for example, because one of the cousins showed it to them. So it didn't feel like it was rooted in biology and they had to do it. It's just they were either influenced by someone else, influenced by, maybe they had an iPad, for example, they had an iPhone, and they literally saw a video, or maybe they ran across, like, oh, masturbation, and because of that they were curious and they tried, maybe at school, whatever, right? So they had an influence, right, that made them want to do it. It's not, that made them curious to do it, right? It's not biology, because if it was biology, then every single kid would be masturbating. And then if you look at older cultures, you'll see that there's no, like, older cultures, literally, like the for example, the primitive cultures don't have a concept of masturbation. You might say it's because of sex, but even then, we have people in the society that starts at 5. We have people in society that starts at 8. That's before biology. That's before puberty. I didn't masturbate up until I was 11 when I had puberty. I think I actually had puberty after that, right? But whatever, right? It doesn't matter. It's just I was curious. It's just because I was curious. People start at 8, some people start at 20, some people start at 30. It's subjective, meaning that it's not because of biology, okay? That's what you gotta understand, because, okay, the first time you masturbated, it wasn't because, oh, you randomly felt like you had to inside of your body and you went and did it and you knew how to do it exactly. No, we don't have that within us. What we have instead is we have the ability to adapt, to know how to masturbate. Like, we're not like inherently masturbated. We just want to masturbate because of the benefits we attach to it, right? So there's no such thing about biology, okay? There's some tribes even, okay? There's studies done on tribe, which I can find, that talks about like how they're not even aroused when they're not having sex. So when they're outside of, the act of having sex, let's say they're not having sex, or let's say it's kids, for example, who are not having sex, obviously, they're not even aroused, literally not even aroused, okay? Another thing I realized, okay, is sexual tension, as people will call it, even though it's a false concept. Sexual tension is, obviously it's in the mind, right? And because it's in the mind, what I realized is you can literally be in the middle of, I remember when I used to masturbate or watch porn, in the middle of it, sometimes I was like, man, this is disgusting. I don't even want to do it anymore, right? And I could just, literally, I think I did it maybe once or twice, where I could just walk away, right? I would just walk away from it and be like, you know what, I don't want to do it anymore. And I wouldn't feel any sexual want to just go to orgasm, right, for example, or want to continue, because I was like, no, in my mind, because sexual tension is in my mind, right? I'm creating it in my mind, and I can also relieve it in my mind just with my own mind, okay? So what you gotta understand is, it's not, there's no such thing about sexual tension, okay? It's just that, there's no such thing as sexual satisfaction. temptation because you're just satisfying your own desire in your own mind. That's what you need to understand, okay? And you can even walk away in the middle of it, because it doesn't give you anything physical that forces you. It's all mental. And dopamine, a lot of people say, oh, dopamine, but Samir, it's because of the dopamine that I masturbate. It's because of the dopamine that is in orgasm. Now again, I would ask you, if a man does it to you and you have an orgasm, if a man, random man, right, would you really feel dopamine? No. And what is dopamine? I need to make a video on this more in depth, but dopamine is not what we think it is. Dopamine is simply the anticipation. What is anticipation? It's motivation, okay? Anticipation for a reward, okay? That's how I explain it, very simply, okay? Because what you need to understand is dopamine, you feel the rush of dopamine the moment you decide to masturbate. Not the moment that you masturbate, the moment that you say, fuck it, I'm gonna go and masturbate to get the reward. The reward might be stress relief because right now you feel stress and you're like, oh, let me go and relieve my stress. So you feel dopamine because you perceive masturbation to give you stress relief, even though it doesn't, right? So people feel dopamine from going to the gym because they think, oh my God, I'm gonna go to the gym, it's gonna be so fun. Or, oh my God, I'm gonna be able to relieve my stress at the gym. Or they feel dopamine before, how, like, let's say there's something that's going to be exciting that's going to happen to you. Let's say that you're going to go on a trip, for example, and you're going to take the plane like in a few hours. You'll feel the rush of dopamine there before you even go on the plane, before you even arrive at the destination, because you anticipate it. You're like, oh my God, this is going to be feel good. And dopamine helps with learning, right? It helps with just making the pathway so that you get used to it, so that it becomes easier for you. For example, if you go on a trip, you're going to get used to that trip because it's going to allow you to not have to think too much and instead make it more of a habit, right? That's what dopamine helps with. But regardless, dopamine is anticipation. You anticipate something, you're motivated towards something because of the reward. Okay, you go on a trip, maybe if you're going, my bad, I had the battery, I thought it was gonna go off, but maybe you're going on a trip and you anticipate the trip to give you the reward of having fun, of living new experiences, of gaining pleasure, whatever, right? Of relieving your stress. So like you basically, that's what dopamine is. Dopamine is not whilst you masturbate. Dopamine is not whilst you're getting the orgasm, because I would argue that when you're in the middle of doing it, you don't even enjoy it. You don't even enjoy it. You just have this, your own mind just playing around, just like having all of these thoughts. Right? And how can something like orgasm feel so pleasurable, but at the same time so bad, like literally 1 second later? It makes no sense. How can something be giving you the opposite reactions at the same time? It just shows that it's in your mind. Because some people will feel bad masturbating, period, while some people feel good masturbating. And feeling good is in the mind. Feeling good is not in the body. It's not because you're stimulating your own body. This is the biggest misconception. It's not because your own body is, for example, you're stimulating your own body that now creates reactions inside of your body that you cannot control. No, all of this is happening inside of your head. It's all happening inside of that from the beginning to the end, okay? And look, okay, that's what we need to understand. The physical sensation, cannot make you feel anything. And, personally, one of the biggest mindset shifts I had was that I feel more manly not masturbating, because I was trying to get the feeling of masculinity when I was masturbating and having orgasm. I was like, look, I'm spreading my seed, I'm a masculine alpha. But I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, look, I'm way more masculine when I don't masturbate. I'm way more masculine when I don't have an orgasm, because objectively, if I look at other men in the society who just masturbate, are they men? Are they men because they're having an orgasm? If you look at homosexuals who masturbate, and have an orgasm, are they a man? No. But when I see the religious people who literally decide to practice celibacy and then get into a marriage afterwards, they're way more of a man to me. And objectively, because they're usually more strong physically, mentally. And they're not masturbating and just like, oh my God, I feel so good. And they're not like having orgasm. And it's not to shame you if you masturbate. It's just to show you that masturbation has no connection with masculinity. I feel way more masculine not masturbating because of how I interpret it, okay? So, at the end of the day, okay, what we gotta understand, I'm just writing here, reading here my notes, right? The easiest solution to all of this is simply, okay, let me just write it down. The easiest of the easiest of the easiest of the easiest and of the easiest solution is simply seeing more benefits in not masturbating, okay? And not masturbating. Once you see more benefits, just like me, okay, in the past, the reason why it was so, I mean, it wasn't easy for me at first to stop masturbating. I struggled a lot, like for years, right? But the moment I realized that, it gave me like kind of like that fire blood inside of me, like of that feeling of like, I want to achieve so much and I'm just driven, hungry, is the moment I realized I don't want to, you know, let go out of that feeling. I love it. I love day to day waking up with so much hunger and drive to conquer things. So it was such a big benefit that it override the benefit of masturbating that I was seeing at that time. Now I don't even see benefits of masturbating, so I don't even feel like masturbating, first of all. But again, I see way more benefits in not masturbating. So it's effortless. That's why people quit in 7 days when they get coached by you one-on-one. Is simply because it's simple. We make it so simple, okay? And we're not forced to. We have a developed consciousness. At the end of the day, we have a developed consciousness. Humans literally have a consciousness to the point where they're not like animals, okay? We can literally start to build a business, and we can build that business for 10 years. For 10 years and see no results. And let's say on the 11th year, we start seeing results, right? But for the first 10 years, we see no results. It's because we're able to see in the future. We have a developed consciousness. We're not animals that are run by our brain chemistry and that will do everything for survival. We choose. We have a consciousness. And that's based on the belief that, you know, I'm saying those things based on the mainstream belief that, oh, you're gonna masturbate because you're forced to. No. You know, let me just debunk urges. Urges. What are urges? I almost forgot, bro. You guys are lucky. What are urges? Okay, what is this writing, man? This is disgusting. Okay, urges. What are urges? Urges is simply a want. Okay, it's like dopamine, basically. It's a want, okay? And what is a want? Want is the emotion associated with perceived, okay, the heck is this? With perceived benefits. So you want something because of the perceived benefits, right? So there's no such thing as an urge, because an urge implies that you have no control over it, which is false. But also, like, it's such a huge misconception, because if literally you had no control over it, then you would masturbate every single time you had the quote-unquote urge, which is not the case. But rather, you know, it's a want, because again, it's not even based on survival. It's not like hunger, which is like you need to do in order to survive, right? It's simply a want. It's a desire, right? It's something that you can do for the benefit of, like, for example, if for example you want to have sex because you want to reproduce with a woman to have a kid, then that's a desire. It's something that you need to do, okay? So it's the emotion associated with the perceived benefits. So that's what an urge is. Like, it's that simple. It's not an urge, it's simply a want. Okay, you want something. So every time you feel like, oh, you have this quote-unquote urge to watch porn or masturbate, just think that it's a want. It's like you want to do it for perceived benefits. Now just debunk those benefits. Go watch my other videos. I have videos debunking pleasure. I have a video debunking stress relief. I have a video debunking withdrawals. I have a video debunking boredom. And you can just watch this. I will make more videos about these so you can understand that. Just debunk overall the value that you attach to porn or masturbation. So what happens is, at the end of the day, you're not even going to feel like doing those things because you're going to see no benefits. And once you truly see no perceived benefits, the want is just not going to be there, because why would you feel like you want something? Why would you have the emotion of want if there's no perceived benefits, if there's none of that? It's just not going to exist, okay? It's really that simple, guys. And at the end of the day, the conclusion, okay, before I stop this video, the conclusion is, if you don't see the point in masturbating, then you won't do it. If you don't see the value in masturbating, just like the tribe I just told you about, just like the many people who we don't hear literally last time I was looking at in the internet, and there was a lot of people saying that they never masturbated and they never felt like it. It just felt weird to them, and they wanted to try it because of other people telling them that it was normal and natural, but never did it because they never saw the point in doing it in the first place. So it shows it's not biological. It's you. It's you who chooses to either watch it. I mean, it's either masturbate or not. Okay. If you don't feel like doing it, you won't do it. So go and debunk. If you want to debunk even further as soon as possible, quit in 7-14 days, then book a call with me down below, one-on-one. But you got to be serious and committed. I'm only accepting people who actually are ready to fully commit to this in all aspects, whether that be through their own commitment, their own mental commitment, financially, physically. It's only 30-60 minutes a week, and you're able to literally quit as soon as possible, and it doesn't take much time. Usually 7-14 days is all that's needed. Okay, so look, you got to be committed, but go and watch my other videos on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. I'm dropping videos every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, so that you can get as much value as possible. Anyways, I'm Samir, and I'm out. Peace.